Odadon. I've never had a close relationship with my father. He was satanic and believed he was the son of Satan. As a child, I remember him practicing satanic rituals on me and my siblings inside our home. I do not like participating, but I had no choice. He would summon spirits and use me and my siblings as practice mice. He was such an evil being, but as much as I feared him, I loved him. I remember the day he died, December of 1992. I was 8 years old. I didn't know him very well because he was in and out, but I will never forget his face, his power, or the entities he left with me. Shortly after his death, I started having night terrors, which is very different from nightmares. I lost a lot of sleep and sanity. I began seeing and feeling spirits throughout the night, and telepathically communicating with them through dreams. I remember my very first encounter with a bad entity like it was yesterday, so the story remains the same. I was 8 years old, living in SSF with my family, in a big 2-story house that was really dark and scary in the night. My mother had all her girlfriends in her room hanging out, doing hair and other girl stuff. She asked me to get the scissors for her hair, so I went to my room where I thought they were. The halls were dark, but I was always afraid of the lights, so I did not turn them on. Instead, I tried to make a run for it. I made it into my room and felt around for some red scissors that I had earlier that day. Of course, these were the wrong scissors because they were not made for cutting hair, but I was happy I found them. I turned around and made it halfway to my room door when I was stopped by this black, cloudy, round, almost human-like figure. His eyes were as white as milk and he was taller than me, so he hovered over me like a storm. He didn't say anything to me, but he released some kind of otherworldly energy that made me lose my voice and eventually made me pass out. Morning snuck up on me when I realized I had in fact had a visit from an otherworldly being that night. I was just a child, so I did not know what to call it. But I am older now and I know in my heart that this was not a typical earthbound human spirit. This was a demon. I stand by this strongly because, as I mentioned earlier, that I was a dreamer, and I can telepathically communicate through my dreams with people and spirits. The dark, cloudy figure that stood over that night has never left me. He only came to me that night to let me know that he was here and he did not plan on leaving me anytime soon. He comes around very often, but more so when I'm alone because I am at my weakest. He came to me one night in a dream and revealed his name to me in the most weirdest way. I was on the street that I lived on at the time in Newark, California. I was at my window looking out. It was so bright outside and warm. There were people outside walking around normally, so I was glad it was a beautiful day because it has been cold the past few days. Everyone and everything stopped all of a sudden and looked in the direction of this jet black Camaro with jet black tinted windows. It was driving very fast up my street and stopped swiftly right outside of my window. Everything changed then. I was no longer looking outside the window. I was like a human camera zoomed in the car trying to read the message there for me. First the camera zoomed in on the roof of the Camaro and there were huge bold white letters that spelled Dodo. I was confused, so I tried to look for the rest of the message when the camera zoomed into the hood of the car and it read Don. When I put it together, it said Odadon. I never got to see his face, but I felt his presence almost as if he was standing inside of me. He was there to let me know that he was not going anywhere, he would be around for a long time. So he drove off and everything went back to normal. Now that I am older, I looked back on my first visit with him and it was in black and white, as was the Camaro in the dream. In a way, I feel like that possibly means he let me know for a fact that he is around and everything I need to know is in fine print. Black ink white paper. These visits get very intense and strong as I get older. Sort of like the older I get, the stronger and closer he gets. Now, what this had to do with my dad was that I feel like he may have possibly left one of his demons with me, out of all our siblings, because I was more open to his practices. Not in a good way, but I feel like there was something in me that was not in my siblings and they fed off of it. That's what I've been told for so long. I still to this day love and miss my dad, although some may find that unusual. But there has always been a part of me that wanted to be a part of him and have that father figure come out of him somehow. My dad loved ladybugs because he believes they are killers. So every time I see a ladybug I take a moment of silence to pray that he made it to his heaven, whatever afterlife he believed in.